Don't look now, but the boys from Town will look to knock Edmonton out of third in the Pacific tonight. We get you set for the Oilers and Kings on the Oil Stream pregame show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the pregame show. Tom Gazzola with you. Matt Kassian, our game analyst, will be by in a little bit. And YouTube Trev holding things down back at ESTHQ. People texting in already into the nasty chat. New intro, says Jeremy S. I thought we had intros for this one. What happened, Trev?
Yeah, sorry. This is the one that this is like the only one that I didn't complete them. So I'm sorry, I'm working on that. But hopefully within like a week we'll have some intros and extras for this show. Sorry, Tommy.
Serenity now.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. I feel terrible.
We've been waiting. Okay? We've been waiting. People have been waiting. They've been getting beautiful intros that Trev made all day, starting today, and the one show that matters most in my heart does not have one. So, ouch, Trev.
I'm sorry, man. I promise it'll be the best one. You're gonna love it when it's done, and that's what it is. It's like I really wanted to take a lot of time doing this one. So, and I got the time now. So it's gonna be perfection. You're absolutely gonna love it. So are the Nasties, and I cannot wait to show you guys.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna hold you to it. 780-218-9999. You can text us. And you can also get at us on the Nasty Chat if you're watching our EST YouTube channel. I see the subscriptions continue to climb. Keep that going. Thank you so much. We're well over 7,000 subscribers, and we're making our way to 7.1 after we hit it last week. That is excellent. Word of mouth is great. And also, we are now on iHeartRadio. So you can catch us on iHeartRadio, you can catch us on TuneIn, you can catch us on YouTube, as well as the live audio stream via our website. Just more places where you can listen and take in all that is EST, and we continue to build this thing up. So hit us up, 780-218-9999, and text us. If you're driving, be safe out there. Lots of snow. Oh, my goodness. That was a classic Alberta winter storm, and we went from like not having to really wear a jacket a couple of days ago to full on welcome back to Alberta winter. Crazy El Nino this winter. And if you're driving and on the roads, be safe out there. Take a little bit of extra time. I noticed a lot of people coming in to downtown early today to get ready to go to the game. Lots of jerseys being worn. And so people are kind of heeding that warning and being safe as much as possible, because the roads are a bit treacherous right now. And so be safe out there. Don't text and drive. All right. We've got the 32-20-2 Edmonton Oilers taking on the 29-17-10 Los Angeles Kings, a Los Angeles Kings team that is playing better under new head coach Jim Hiller, who we're going to hear from later on in the show. We're also going to hear from Dennis Bernstein, our Kings insider. In about 10 minutes' time, DB will join us and give us the scoop on this LA team that is a bit resurgent of late. And we'll also catch up with Cass on game changers. Of course, more of your texts, all that good stuff as we get closer and closer to puck drop. 7:38 puck drop tonight. Kind of those weird start times that we see with the LA Kings. Usually out west, we see an 8:30 Mountain Time start when they're playing LA, and with the Kings being out here, it's a Monday. There's a few games on the schedule. We get the 7:30 start in good old our town. All right, get at us via the text line or the Nasty Chat. Let's start with your starting lineups for tonight's action. For the Oilers, this is what we're anticipating, and this is how they skated during the pregame skate. Not really motivated, not fast, a ho-hum pregame skate where everybody was out there. It was not optional, and we'll see if that carries over into the game, or it could mean absolutely nothing, and then the Oilers come out guns a-blazing. We will see in about an hour and a half, but this is how they skated today at the morning skate. McDavid between Draisaitl and Hyman Ryan Nugent-Hopkins between Evander Kane and Matthias Janmark, who had a spirited bout against Blake Coleman on Saturday night. That was props to Janmark, honestly. Not known as a fighter, certainly. I haven't seen him ever fight. He's not afraid to mix it up, but he went at it with Blake Coleman right out of the penalty box, and I was like, okay, that was good. Now, he was one of the few guys driving the bus the other night, but when he's driving the bus, that's not necessarily a good sign for your team. You had McDavid with the blown back check on the first goal. You had Draisaitl taking a really bad penalty that directly led to a goal on the ensuing power play. Hyman had a good game, but you could only say that about a couple more guys. Maybe you could say, hey, Holloway was all right. Perry was okay, but more passengers than drivers the other night versus the Calgary Flames. So McLeod gets Fogle and Perry on his line. Derek Ryan between Dylan Holloway and Connor Brown. That means no Sam Gagner, no changes to the defense. Nurse with Ceci, Ekholm with Bouchard, Desharnais and Kulak together. As for the Los Angeles Kings, here's what we're anticipating tonight from LA. Anze Kopitar between Alex Laferriere and Adrian Kempe. Philip Deneau between Kevin Fiala and Trevor Moore. Quentin Byfield and Arthur Kaliev flanking Pierre-Luc Dubois. And then Blake Lizotte centering Jared Anderson-Dolan and Trevor Lewis. On the blue line tonight for the Kings, Vladislav Gavrikov with Drew Doughty, Jacob Moverare with Matt Roy, Andreas Englund with Jordan Spence. And then you've got a few guys nicked up, like Mikey Anderson, who's usually paired up with Drew Doughty. Anderson day-to-day upper body. Victor Arvidsson, tough go again for him. He's been banged up the last couple of seasons. Was playing and then got hurt again. He's on the IR with a lower body issue. Carl Grundstrom, IR lower body. And then Phoenix Copley, IR undisclosed. Starting goalies tonight for the Edmonton Oilers, 25-year-old Stuart Skinner, 25-13-2 on the season. 272 goals against average, 901 save percentage, 2 shutouts in 41 games this season. Skinner versus the Kings, a lifetime 3-2 record, 204 GAA, 936 save percentage, 1 shutout in 6 games against LA over the course of his young career. At the other end of the rink for the Los Angeles Kings, it'll be Big Save Dave, 31-year-old David Riddick, 9-3-3 on the season, 221 GAA, 917 save percentage, 1 shutout. That came in the last meeting between these two teams where the Oilers lost to the Kings. Riddick has appeared in 17 games this season. He is 5-4-1 lifetime versus Edmonton with a 259 GAA, 908 save percentage, 1 shutout. Again, coming earlier this season, a few weeks ago, in 12 appearances versus the Edmonton Oilers. All right, before Dennis Bernstein hops on, YouTube Trev, are you there? You going to put yourself on camera?
Yes, sir. I can do this.
Going into this one.
Oh, wait. Actually, here, give me like 2 shakes, Tommy.
Oh, boy.
I forgot to.
No intro and now this.
I'm sorry. Oh, wait. Okay. There we go. Hey. Oh. Okay, so, what are my initial thoughts, Tommy? I mean, just, you got to start way better. Like, personally, especially for Leon Draisaitl, like, one thing I've noticed a lot lately is Leon Draisaitl, he will start the game, like, pretty good. He gets the feet are moving, and he looks pretty good, but one thing, it's like, as soon as something goes wrong, he misses a pass, or he doesn't receive a pass correctly, something, it just, his confidence just goes down, and you can see it, his attitude, it's just like that, right? Like, he's got no resilience, and he needs to persevere through that. Like, he really does. And then you'll notice it tonight, okay? He's going to start strong, and if something goes wrong, then he's just down the whole game. So, like, that's one thing, is if he gets off the schneid, if he scores, like, really quick, if he does a good play, gets the Oilers on the board, he's going to have a good game. But, like, one thing, it's really infuriating. So, that's one thing I'm looking for tonight, Tommy, as well. It'll be interesting to see what Nugent-Hopkins, Matthias Janmark, and Evander Kane can do tonight. If you remember from last year, there was a stint. There was actually it was maybe a month every now and then they'd kind of shuffle the lines and they'd resort back to Nugent-Hopkins, Matthias Janmark, and Klim Kostin. And at times that line actually did okay. Like it was a pretty steady line. So it'll be interesting to see if they get that connection with that line tonight. And they'd certainly, I mean, Kane kind of needs it. Janmark definitely needs it. And I talked about in the post-game show against, Calgary on Saturday. Like, Nuge, he's been pretty invisible as of late, Tommy. So all three of those guys, they need to be producing way more, at least just, get going, at least have the effort or something, right? If you're not scoring, like just, be motivating for, the other 2 lines, 3 lines that go out there after you. So those are the things I'll be looking forward to. And yeah, just start, like watch out, like Kempe. We all know as fans and observers of watching the Oilers, Kempe is an Oilers killer. So that's who I'd be watching out for tonight. It should be a good one, but just bring it. Don't let the Kings bring their game, like bring the Oilers game, and they should be. They should be they should be hungry, but I said that in the Battle of Alberta too, right? Like they should have been, prepared, and those are the games you get up for, Tommy. So it'll be interesting. And then, like what you said, it was very weird, kind of like the skate today. Like they weren't really into it. I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. So time will tell. Maybe that's what they're saving all that energy for tonight's game.
One would hope so, Trev. Nicely done. Well said, as always. I was about to say that Matthias Janmark with 3 goals in his last 4 games is the hot one on that line with Kane and Nugent Hopkins. And I think VR Montenegro was saying something earlier in the nasty chat about Janmark. Tommy's bromance with Janmark is in full bloom right now.
I saw that.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. That's well said. I do appreciate as well Matthias Janmark scoring 3 goals in his last 4 games, 2 of which he actually shot into the net, which is nice. But 6 points in his last 6 games for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. It's there. It's just not as prominent as some people, I think, would like. But he did have a 3-point night against Detroit. Then he followed it up with a goal the next game, an assist the game after that, held off the score sheet against Arizona, did not play versus Boston, an assist in his return versus Minnie, and then nothing on Saturday against Calgary. And then you've got Evander Kane, who has 2 points in his last 6 games, and both of those coming in that win at Arizona, where he had the 2 goals. Outside of that, donuts for Kane, who's been playing at least 16 and a half to 17 minutes on those nights. And he did play 21 versus Boston and had a +2 rating to show for it. Or what? Just no, pardon me. That's just 2 shots and a -2 rating as I look at these tiny texts in the game notes. All right, 780-218-9999. We will have Dennis Bernstein hopping on in a bit as Trev salutes everybody. We'll see him later on in the show and that glorious mustache. And then you can get at us in the nasty chat. One says, does Gazzy spin his wheel of ties, or does he plan to wear ones that don't match? No, I have a lot of ties, but I just go through the tie rack. I've got a nice big, like a bunch of tie racks. So that's how I do it, and I just find a shirt that matches with the tie and the suit. That's how I do it. Nothing special. Piss Jog has a question for Cass. I will save that one, PJ, for Cass. Rip City Step says downtown means full suit. Yep, absolutely. And keep those texts coming in. 780-218-9999. We do have just a few games on the schedule, 4 total tonight around the National Hockey League. So a quiet Monday. Right now, Washington leads Ottawa 5-3 in the second period. 15 minutes left to play in that middle frame. And we'll see if the Sens can pull out a comeback in that one. I wasn't going to say a miracle or anything, but it's pretty tough here for Ottawa. And then you've got 4 minutes into the first period, Dallas and the Islanders. No score there. And then Edmonton, of course, welcomes LA to town. Seattle gets Boston, and that is a quiet Monday night around the National Hockey League. John from the Fort texting in says, hey, Tommy, for the love of God, get your heads out of your butts and play some hockey, Oilers. Simple. John from the Fort. Well said. Well said. Eric adds, keep Nuge forever. Barry the Cheater says, I am too optimistic, thinking the Oilers might pull off a W tonight. The Kings, meanwhile, have been much better of late. They've been excellent on the road all season. They started absolutely gangbusters out of the gate on the road. Overall, 18-7-4 away from Crypto.com Arena. They've won 3 straight on the road, and they carry with them a 29-17-10 record. So things have been going good on the road for the LA Kings, and they did have a bit of a lull prior to Jim Hiller taking over for Todd McClellan. In the Kings' last 10 games, a 7-2-1 mark. So that's been better. The Oilers, not so much, 4-5-1. I called it a lull earlier on the Oil stream for the Oilers, and I did say that some fans were ringing the alarm bells pretty quickly, and some people were texting in and actually got at me and on Twitter and say, "I think it's hilarious, Tom. We got to stir it up. You can't agree with everything on a show every day. Got to make it somewhat interesting." So there we go. Coyote Steve says Oilers could be fighting for a wild card spot by weekend if they don't turn it around. They could be in a wild card spot by tonight if they don't win tonight against the LA Kings. All right, I see he's ready to go. He's looking fly like he always does. It is our boy, Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period. What up, DB? Where are you at? Are you just at home today?
I'm home chilling. Yeah,
I like it.
I've been on the road. Didn't long 6 weeks.
Man.
All-Star, Stadium Series. And I picked the right trip not to come to Edmonton, given
Yes, you
what
did.
I see from my friends Jim Fox and Zach Dooley. So maybe late March, because we do this one more time, the Kings. They'll go three-game Western kind of trip late March. But great to be with you as always, Tom. And yeah, you should be panicking in Edmonton. No, just kidding.
Yes, just stir them up. Stir them up more, DB, because you love to do that.
Yeah. No, look, what a crazy season, right? One team was out of it, done. The other team was a Stanley Cup contender. Then one team was a Stanley Cup contender. The other one was done, fired the coach. And now we're 1 point away from each other with a game in hand. So it's been a really, really interesting season. And for the Oiler fans, come on, you're going to have slumps. You win 16 straight. What's going to happen? You're going to play 500 hockey for a stretch, right? But, this is the best time to probably hit a lull, right? And it is a lull. You watch the games. It's not the same team. It's great. Who cares? But, now it's the stretch drive, keep people healthy. Will they add somebody? Who knows? But it's certainly not time to panic in Edmonton.
No. Some people do panic and they get worried, and that's understandable. They don't like the way this team's losing of late. If it's any solace, the Canucks are 4-5-1.
Yeah.
The Golden Knights are 4-5-1 in their last 10. The Avs are 3-5-2. So it's, we're seeing it from a few teams who are kind of sputtering right now. But DB, when you look at this Kings team, 7-2-1 in the last 10, 6-2 with Jim Hiller. What has his impact been from the 10 or these 8 games that he's been the head coach of this group?
Well, I wrote a column for TFP that just came out today, and I said it at the top. If Jim Hiller was an MLB pitcher, there's no question what his top pitch in his arsenal would be, the changeup. He's changed everything, Tom. He put Dubois with Byfield. Like, he switched up the pairs. He's done everything. He's put Blake Lizotte with Dubois and Byfield. He's put Alex Laferriere up on the top line. He's done everything. But you know what? It really hasn't helped the offense. Like, in the last 8 games under Hiller, they've scored 9 goals, 5-on-5. But what's happened? The defense has come back, and the goaltending. When you look at the goaltending statistics, I know people say, maybe trade Marc-Andre Fleury there, maybe Saros. One guy has a 913 save percentage. The other one has a 917 save percentage. They've been doing the job. Are they superstars? No. Are they Saros? Are they, Sorokin or Shesterkin? No. But they've gotten back to the defensive game. And not only that, the penalty kill, it was first for a long time in the league. Now it's second, but I think and I'm probably jinxing them tonight because they're playing the Oilers and have a great power play. They've gone 33 straight games without giving up more than 1 power play goal in a game. So the defense has come back. So it really, while there's been a lot of talk about the changes in the lineup, and certainly putting Byfield with Dubois has helped him, no question. But it's been more about what they did earlier in the season under Todd, structure, defense, and getting saves.
Speaking of the saves that they're getting, I know Copley's hurt, and he was great for them last year. He became the story. DB, we would talk about him late in the season down the stretch, and then they went out and got Korpisalo. But right now, I'm looking at David Riddick's numbers, and I'm going, is he kind of having a Phoenix Copley type of situation? Is it similar or is it different? How would you describe it?
No, it's absolutely similar, Tom. Look, last season, Phoenix came out of nowhere and helped save the season. Same thing with Big Save Dave. Phoenix goes down with an ACL. He's done for the season. And the guy's 9-3-3 and in 15 decisions. That's pretty good. So they've gotten points in 12 of the 15 games he played in. He's a really funny guy. He keeps the locker room loose. He's making enough saves. Is he going to lead the league in shutouts? No. Is he going to win them a series? No, but he can't lose them a series. It's as simple as that. So he's been good enough, right? He's not putting up like a Saros 45 save, performance to shut a team out. He's not that goalie, and neither is Cam Talbot.
Right.
But they should be good enough if they get scoring to be good enough. And this is a 1-year thing. Like somehow, somewhere, the goaltending situation is going to be different in Los Angeles next season. But for right now, these guys are doing the job. And I know that there are bigger names out there that might help them a little bit. But I'm of the mindset that what you see is what you get with respect to this roster. And the Oilers and Kings meet for a third consecutive time in the playoffs. You're probably going to see the same guys. The one question mark is going to be obviously Victor Arvidsson, who's had a really tough go. He's been out for a year and a half with back injuries and 2 surgeries, and comes back, plays 3 games, and he's out. So it's going to be interesting. But the goaltending is not the issue right now. It's as crazy as it sounds. It's the 5-on-5 scoring.
Jeez. Dennis Bernstein joining us now from the 4th period as we get you set for the Oilers and the Kings. You can text us 780-218-9999, or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can get in on the nasty chat. DB, Mikey Anderson a bit nicked up as well. There's some other injuries that this team is dealing with. Carl Grundstrom's out. You mentioned Arvidsson, Copley being gone for the year, but relatively healthy outside of that, no?
Yeah, but I'm sure Oiler fans are overjoyed that Mr. Body Slam, Mikey Anderson's not playing tonight, after what went on with him and Leon in the last playoff round.
It was a slew foot.
It was always a slew foot. Is that what it was? Okay. I didn't. Body Slam, slew foot, who cares? Yeah, it's a big miss. He's a top-pair defenseman. He plays 21 minutes a night. He's rock solid. And now you're going to have to see, Andreas England come in. Maybe Jacob Movari is coming up from Ontario, who's, a solid stay-at-home guy. And everybody beats up Andreas England. I mean, I don't know, Tom. I mean, you do with fans as well. I've never heard as many complaints about a guy who, listen to this, he's 260th in average time on ice in the NHL for NHL defensemen. And people think he's the problem. Like, he's not the problem. He plays 13 minutes a night. Right. The problem is, Brant Clark, who had that amazing goal, who's going to be a star, he really hasn't added much to the team offensively. 5-on-5, I think his goal for percentage is 18%, which is the lowest in the league, without question, the lowest. So it's a team in flux. There's been a lot of change. Tom, when I look at this team, they talked about being a Stanley Cup contender when the season started. When I look at this team right now they played Dallas in the first round. They're not beating Dallas. So there's got to be a lot of soul searching now. They are on a good run. The load's been light. And, you dealt with Todd McClellan for years, right? Todd's a very intense guy. And there was just so much pressure on this team when they were going through that 3 wins in 17 game stretch. There was just a lot of pressure, a lot of intensity. And I think the players were waiting for the shoe to drop on Todd. And they didn't hate the coach. The room was tight. It just was a sense of relief. And so Hiller comes in, sense of humor, chatty guy, is not afraid. Look, here's the thing, Tom, 2 things. With 3 minutes left in the game against Nashville, he played 4 forwards and 1 defenseman at 5-on-5. He pulled the goalie with 3.5 minutes left in the game. Now, he's not Patrick Wall pulling the goalie with 11 minutes to go, but he's doing things. The one thing about Todd was resistant to change. He believed that he kept going out there and putting up the same line. At some point, it would turn around, and it just took too long to turn around. Hiller's the opposite. He's willing to try everything in game, rotating defensemen, going back to pairs and stuff like that. So, for fans that Edmonton fans that haven't watched the Kings, you're going to see a lot of different line combinations, probably different pairings at some point in time, depending on matchups. So it's been good for the team. Is it sustainable? I don't know. They're going to have to get more scoring from guys like, Trevor Moore and even Adrian Kepe, who's the leading scorer on the team. They really haven't been having the goal production they did early in the season when they went out to that great start.
Has this gotten Pierre-Luc Dubois going at all? Is he kind of stuck in the muck a little bit? Because I know people were talking about that for a while when things were bad right before McClellan got let go. What's your take on that, DB?
Yeah, he's definitely Byfield's definitely energized Dubois, and maybe the coaching too. And maybe, at some point there was a little back and forth with Todd and Dubois about, saying we need more from the player. And then the player said, I need more from the coach. And I'm like, okay, that's not really great.
Not good.
Yeah. So, but look, here's the thing, it's the style of play. Like, Pierre-Luc Dubois has a sense of nonchalance about his game. Like, he's not Blake Lizotte. He's not Trevor Moore. He's not out there giving every inch of energy on every shift, right? But he's a really good player. He's a 27 guy. He's underachieved here. I know people are saying that the Winnipeg Jets fleeced the Kings, which I don't necessarily believe. But the combination of putting, you had a lot of time here for Dubois the first half of the season when he's playing with Alex Laferriere, with Carl Grunstrom. He wasn't playing with top wingers. Well, now he's got no excuse. He's got the best player on the team right now. It's Quentin Byfield. He's playing with him right now. And he's been better. He's been better the last 5 games. He scored a couple of goals. Like, does he need to do more? Yeah. The one concern I have is one of the first immediate availabilities that Jim Hiller had post-game. They asked what Dubois needed to do more. And the first word out of Jim's mouth was intensity, which I worry about. That's what I worry about. But here's the thing, Tom. It doesn't matter if he's crap all regular season. They acquired him for game 83 for the playoffs. And if he comes through in the playoffs, everybody will shut their mouths. Does he need to be better? Absolutely. Is this fleecing the Winnipeg Jets did? No. The optics aren't great. But again, they're right in the spot to get in the top 3 right now. And we're, 57 games in.
I would like to say and believe that the same could be mentioned about Connor Brown, but that is not the case, DP.
No.
That is not the case at all. Sure. Dennis Bernstein with us, getting you set for the Oilers and the Kings tonight. I think it was the last game on the 10th, so 16 days ago, as Jim Hiller was taking over, we were talking, and I kind of asked you, with things being rough at that point for the Kings, if people were a little bit antsy, and you said that Rob Blake might be feeling the heat. Where do you think he's at now, him and Luc Robitaille, after this last stretch here?
Well, this is their 5th year manning the helm of the team, and they haven't won a playoff round. They need to win a playoff round, because they said that this team was built to win. That Dubois trade built to win. So if you go out in the first round again, then what do you do? I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Are they feeling heat? Yeah, because Todd and Rob went back a long time. Rob played for Todd in San Jose. This was a very, very painful move to dismiss Todd, right? Because he's a great coach, despite what people say. There's fans in LA that hold a grudge against Todd for losing to the Kings in 2014 still, right? There was a whole faction of fans. They got what they wanted. Hiller's been fine. 6-2, you can't argue with results. Right. But the true results, Tom, first of all, you got to get to the postseason. And the challenge for the Kings are that this is a very difficult road trip. Here, Edmonton tonight, Calgary tomorrow, and then Thursday in Vancouver. Yep. If they don't do well, the teams behind them, like Nashville, St. Louis, Calgary, they could gain on them. So, yeah, look, it's not negotiable. Look, Rob's no different than Carl Dubas. You can't miss the playoffs. Not with this team. Not after what you said in the preseason. So, yeah, I think there's heat on both guys. And it's a move they didn't want to make, but they really had to make because the tailspin was too long. But now the payoff for this team and the actual how they'll be evaluated will be how they do in the postseason, assuming they make it.
Well, the record on the road is really good, DB, and that hasn't changed all season long. They've won 3 in a row. So I feel like that might give them a little bit of confidence going into this road trip. They get the Oilers, who are sputtering a bit. Calgary tomorrow night. Well, Calgary's been better lately. We saw them play a pretty spirited game here in Edmonton on Saturday. And then, Vancouver looking to get out of a bit of a rut like the Oilers as well. So, it'll be a tough Pacific Division Canadian road trip, but I don't mind the Kings' chances with the way they've been playing of late and the way that they can play on the road. Okay, so I asked you about Luc Robitaille and I asked you about Rob Blake. You mentioned Marc-Andre Fleury. That's a name that has popped up in the last week or so, DB. You should not be surprised around here, among others. But what do you think the Kings will be looking to do come deadline?
I would add a scoring winger. I would look at and we have a story up on TFP about Seattle re-signing Jordan Eberle. Kings need a right-hand shot. So Jordan Eberle, maybe I ingest kind of ingested Tyler Toffoli if New Jersey falls out of the race. They need a right-handed shot, right? So that would be. I don't think there's going to be any big moves because they really can't. They can't trade for Saros, and here's why. First of all, you got to pay to get Saros,
right?
And his cap is great, which is this year 5, next year 5. You could probably make a trade for it, but if you think he's a long-term solution, he wants Shesterkin money. He wants Sorokin money. He wants $8 million a year. Do you want to pay that goalie who will be 30 at the time of the end of his contract after next season, $8 million a year? I'm not sure. So I don't think, and I keep going back to the draft. When Rob told me, and he's basically stuck to his guns here, the team he assembled in the offseason is the team you're going to see at the end of the season. There's not going to be major moves here. The only major move you can make to clear cap space to get maybe they want to get in the Jake Gensel conversation, and he's a left-hand shooter, which I don't think. You'd have to trade Matt Roy.
Right.
And here's the problem with trading Matt Roy. The best part of this team, Tom, the one consistent part of this team all season, penalty kill. They were first for a long time. I think the Flyers just passed them, although they gave up 7 yesterday, so maybe they didn't. So you want to weaken the best part of your team, especially if you got to play Edmonton again for a third time. You want to weaken the penalty kill? I don't think so. So I would be shocked if there is a substantial move made in season. But if it goes south and they miss the playoffs or they go out in the first round again, and it's been 10 years since they went around, Tom. That's a long time, right? Since they won the Cup. Then you got to make you got to make another big move here. So if it's Saros, if it's John Gibson, whoever, and the goaltending situation will solve itself. I don't think by March 8th, but certainly by October it will. You'll see different goaltending in Los Angeles next season.
Dennis Bernstein with us right now. DB, like you said off the top, you've been traveling around a lot, and you were here for the Heritage Classic.
Oh, yeah.
You were in New York. I should say New Jersey, but let's not kid ourselves. You probably were in New York during that time, like most people would be.
In New York, Tom.
Yeah, of course. Come on.
Exactly.
It's home for you. It's home for you.
No Meadowlands Hilton for me. I was down in Chelsea somewhere.
I've stayed at that Meadowlands Hilton. No, thank you. I'm good. But how would you were at All-Star, I think, too. You're traveling around. I love the updates where you're wearing the shades on the plane. Yeah. Like, where's he going next? Yeah. How were those Stadium Series games, and how do they stack up to the other outdoor games that we saw this year, being the Heritage and the Winter Classic?
Amazing. They sold 79,000 tickets Sunday afternoon for Islanders Rangers. 79,000. They probably could have sold more, but the field at MetLife is being readjusted for the World Cup because they're getting the final of the World Cup. So they lost a couple of thousand seats because the soccer field's bigger than the football field. So they had to build out, and they lost some rows in the lower bowl. It was amazing. It was great. It was everything it should be. The football mentality with the tailgating for the 2 nights was fantastic. The NHL's in a really good place right now. The All-Star game was amazing. And I think part of it was certainly, they talked to Connor about it. And I think the players for the All-Star game, and people say, it was really bad, it wasn't entertaining. I think the players took that to heart because the league could devise all these other things, but the players got to care. And except for Kucherov in the skills competition, like everybody did care, right?
Right.
It was a great 6 weeks for this team. So now you see, like, the international calendar is set through 2030. We're going to have the 4 Nations tournament. We're going to have the Olympics. The NHL's in a great place, Tom. And for people that don't like those Stadium Series games, well, you can't say that in Edmonton because you just had the Heritage Classic, which was an amazing event. These are events, Tom. Yep. And if they start selling 7,000 tickets instead of 79,000 tickets, they'll stop. But there's more to do. The league's in a great spot. Talking expansion, I know some fans don't want to hear about that, but we're going to 34 at some point in time when maybe I'm retired. We'll be at 36. The league couldn't be in a better place right now. The TV stuff is great. The ESPN, TNT in the States is fine. And the talent on this team. And, look, the Oilers found a way to win the Stanley Cup. Look, I keep saying, what would be the greatest thing for this league? If Connor McDavid was playing Stanley Cup final games at Madison Square Garden. And some people in LA might not like that and some other places, but that would be the ultimate. And the ratings would be through the roof. So, again, because of the great players in this league and because it's just the fans are amazing, we're in a really good spot in the NHL right now.
I did enjoy the All-Star game, and I did think it was also better. And you're right, DB. These are events. What did you make of the overtime winner that Panarin had where the net got knocked off? I think it was Dobson, right? And then they counted it. What did you think of that call?
The puck was going in the net.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So it's the impetus of the puck. It was going in the net. I didn't like Dobson. Tried to make a great play, but he made a terrible pass. Right? 10 seconds in. And if here's the thing about that game and about the team that lost. The Islanders have blown, glad just sitting down. They've blown 16 third period leads this season. Not 16 leads, 16 leads in the third period. And they've only won 3 of those games. So that team is on the outside looking in. It's not, but it was a great event. But that goal should have counted. Panarin is great. He's not going to be in the MVP conversation. We know the 3 guys that probably are going to be the finalists at this point in time. But it was a great event, and I think that was the right call. It was a great event and a great comeback win for the Rangers.
Last one for you, Michael Bublé on shrooms and owning up to it. Good or bad for the league?
It can't be better. That
was awesome.
Own it. Be transparent. We always want transparency until we don't want transparency, Tom. So it's a funny thing. But no, I think it was great. And he's such a dyed-in-the-wool fan. It's so great that have him in there. So that offhanded know it about shrooms. Who cares? Let's have a good time. It's a
Touche.
good time. Tom, you know the All-Star Weekend. It's a good time.
It's a good
Let's go.
time. And it sounds like
Game
it was
6
a
of the
great
Stanley
time.
Cup Final. Let's go. It's great.
Let's go.
So I'm all for it. I want Michael Bublé there every All-Star game.
I'm with you, TV, because that was pretty damn funny.
Yeah.
This was great, as always, Dennis, and I look forward to catching up with you next month when these two teams wrap up the season series. And then, hey, maybe you're making your way to Edmonton and we turn the heat up around here, and it's actually springtime, as you do, because you make it a regular trip now. So we got to get you back up here, maybe for the postseason, DP.
Hope so. It's always great being on the EST with you, Tom. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dennis. That is our boy, Dennis Bernstein, our Kings insider, our dear friend, giving us the scoop on the LA Kings as they get set to take on the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Let's go into a couple of texts here. 780-218-9999. You can text us. Matt says, hey, Tommy, do you know why Noblock has been throwing the lines in the blender? They went on a 16-game win streak without changing the lines, and they haven't gone back to those lines since. I don't get it. Matt, they tweaked a little bit, but they stayed pretty consistent during that 16-game heater. Towards the end, there were cracks starting to show. I think it was by game 11 or 12 into that winning streak where they were winning, but there were nights where you're like, they kind of got lucky, or if it weren't for the power play, or if they didn't get that one save, they probably would have lost that. And Noblock started hinting at, hey, we need to be better here. I didn't really like this. I didn't really like that. We started to hear some of that post game during that stretch in the latter parts of it. And then he did start tweaking the lineup a little bit. Then really late in the winning streak, they got Perry in there. And then now, since they've come back, they've been slow out of the gates. They've been hit or miss. And he kind of hinted at it before the break too. He was looking for a spark. Remember, he had Draisaitl and McDavid together for a little bit. And I think he's searching for answers. I think he's kind of in the same spot that at times Jay Woodcroft was in, and seeing how this group has struggles with consistency, has struggles with maintaining a focus on details. And he's kind of doing whatever he can to get that spark back. And that's the kind of frustrating thing about this team, is when they get in a rut or mentally they're not all there, we get a 4-5-1 stretch where people are going, what the hell's wrong with this team? They looked like world beaters before. And I know people will say it's the schedule and the level of competition is better. They should be able to. They've beaten the Kings before this year. They've beaten the Golden Knights earlier in the season. Like, it's not like they can't beat these teams that they've lost. They beat Dallas. That was good. They were in that game against Boston. Now, they didn't do it in a great fashion, having to come back. They dug holes. But I think this kind of started prior to the 16-game winning streak ending. And I think, Noblock is just searching for answers. So if he finds pairs that he likes, then maybe he sticks with that. But yeah, it's been interesting to see him go through this process and get those aha moments with this group and be like, oh, I see. This is what Woodcroft was dealing with. This is what Dave Tippett had to deal with. How do you keep these lows very minute and small? And he's trying to attack it with his own solutions. And so far, that's been switching up the lines. Sometimes he'll have something work late in the game and he sticks with it for the start of the next game and it's not working, and then he goes to the blender. I think it's him just realizing that this group is Jekyll and Hyde a lot of the time, and that's certainly their identity this season. That's my take on it, CB Radio Guy. I'm certain there are other theories out there. And if you have any, float them to us, 780-218-9999. I'm going to get to this. Oh, that was from Matt. Sorry. CB Radio Guy with this one. CB Radio Guy, thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. And all good, my friend. Matty Kassian is good to go. Do we want to get Cass on here? Let's get Cass on here. You ready to rock, Cass? There you are. How many times did you shovel the snow today, Cass?
Too many. See, here was my big mistake is I decided to shovel last night before I went to bed. Like right before I went to bed, I'm like, all right, there's a lot coming down. Make it a little bit quicker to get everything done in the morning if I do it now, and then it doesn't take as long in the morning.
Right.
Huge mistake. Because it took a while and there was a ton of snow. But where this is the important thing that I forgot is where my house sits, and with where the neighbor's house is, I seem to catch a ton of wind.
Oh,
So and I shovel the right way for it. So I kind of shovel away from the way that typically the wind kind of spins through the area. But it just takes everything like off my neighbor's roof and off of my own and deposits on the driveway. So it was like I didn't even do anything. It's like I shoveled everything later yesterday evening and this morning when I woke up and, got the girls their breakfast, got their lunch ready for school, and then went and took a peek outside and was just like, oh boy, it's going to take me another 40 minutes here again anyway. So so there's those two. And then I did it one time again after I got the girls, picked them up from school today. Just a small one at that point, but was like, hey, I just want to get this stuff out of the way. So it was 3 times in total, 2 large projects with it. And then the third one wasn't bad.
We need the snow. We need the moisture. We need precipitation. We've had a very pleasant winter. The Kings media were like, what the hell happened? We're like 2-3 days ago, we didn't really need a jacket. Like it was, you put on a hoodie or like a light jacket and you were okay. I saw guys wearing shorts outside, for crying out loud, a few days ago. And then, we got a classic Alberta storm and here we are. Even on my balcony, Cass, like, I looked this morning, like I saw the snow last night. I'm like, oh, that's good. We're getting the storm, kind of due for one. But even on my balcony, there's like 1.5 foot like of a drift that built up, and whatever the way the wind was blowing, I faced directly south. It built up, and I mean, walking around, I had to just cross one street to get to the arena today, and I'm like in snow piles on the street, kind of trying to duck over them. But this is good. If it puts some of the wildfires at bay, then that's great. And then hopefully we get some or an ample supply of precipitation when things kick into high gear for spring. But yeah, it's funny, everybody talking about the snow, and we were due, Cass, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the funny thing is, one of my wife's, one of her best friends is coming to visit from Texas this next week. And Mandy had been telling her like, hey, you know what? It's been really mild here, like been really good. Don't worry about it. It's not that bad. And then I just sent her and her husband, we sent up a picture and we're just like, 24 hours. This is what happens in 24 hours. Like, this is,
sorry.
Yeah. But you know what? They're bringing, it's just her friend Jordan and their daughter is coming too, to hang out with our kids, and never been sledding or anything like that. So, actually having a little bit of snow will be okay, because they'll get to do some fun outside stuff that maybe they normally wouldn't get to do, but certainly not the cold.
No,
we went and borrowed some of our other friends' extra snow boots. So she has some, because they don't have any of that stuff.
Well, you know what? I think that's part of the charm, is like the snow, obviously, and doing those things outside, those activities, as long as it heats up. But I think it's supposed to be like when are they getting here? Because next week's supposed to be like -7. I think that's reasonable, right?
Yeah, that's not that bad. I think they get here next Saturday. I think. I think it's next Saturday, and they're here for about a week. So it'll be like I said, it'll be good. I'm not too worried about it. Just have a little bit more Texas up here, which will be nice for Mandy, and you'll probably see a different background because the baby's going to be sleeping in here. So I'm going to have to relocate for doing the pre and post, or maybe I'll just come and hang out with you at Hudson's, which is always an option. That would be great. Well. So we'll have fun, Tommy. But the snow was a little bit of a shock to the system, even though at this point it probably should not be.
Well, we're in it together, my friend. We are in it together. All right, let's get into Game Changers now with our game analyst, Matt Kassian, brought to you by Damon Bunting, RE/MAX Elite. Damon Bunting, consistent top producer realtor in Greater Edmonton and among RE/MAX realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting, or real estate cast numero uno tonight. East-West turnovers. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's what other teams have been saying pretty consistently to the Edmonton Oilers, is thank you for that. Something you need to get out of your game here. I don't want to talk about any of the numbers today, because Tom, after the way they played the last couple games, I'm beyond numbers at this point. And we're kind of beyond the platitudes and people just saying things. But this is a big one. They've had way too many turnovers, way too much trying to go east to west, way too much trying to be too fancy. And it just hasn't worked, Tom. And I don't want to say it's like the most critical time of the year, because it's always the most critical time of the year, but it's such an important game and such an important night in such an important stretch here for the Edmonton Oilers to turn this thing around before it goes from, okay, we just didn't play well for a stretch of games or for a period of time, to just outright, having a really bad losing streak and kind of going back to the team that we saw early in the season. I mean, they have to figure this thing out, Tommy. And to me, making sure that those east-west turnovers, those passes that are just too high risk, too low reward, that those just have to be gone. Because and Noblock talked about, and he was speaking more about just flipping pucks out in the neutral zone, but ultimately it's the same thing, in that you're just giving the puck to the other team and you're not executing. So you're not being threatening offensively, you're not executing offensively, you're just handing the puck to the other team, and then you're having to play defense. And those east-west passes are forcing them to play way too much defense and leading them into giving up way too many shots against, way too many odd man rushes against, way too many chances against. And LA will try to sit back. They are a patient team that will sit back, and then just wait for one of those opportunities before they try to push aggressively towards your net. So for the Edmonton Oilers, listen, you have to play this game patient. You have to play it patient. And the tendency for this group, when they're feeling either pressure or they're feeling like they need to score, and generally when they're not playing well, is to try to just the modus operandi, the automatic is they try to throw pucks east-west, and they can't do that.
No. And yeah, you're right. They're risky passes, they're backhand sauces, they get picked off. Those types of passes that are generally biting them in the butt. Cass, let's go into number 2. I did want to bring up something, but I think number 2 ties in really nicely. Maybe even number 3, but number 2 simply, and I think I know a lot of people would agree with you, get a save.
Yeah. And this is me, Tom, and we've talked about that. We have not excused the goaltending. We have not. Now we said, like, last game, and I stand by it. I don't think any goalie wins that last game against Calgary. I don't think anyone does. No goalie is going to steal you that game. But getting an extra save, I think, would be great. And when your team's on the skids a little bit, getting that extra save could be the difference. And in a game like tonight, to me, it could be the difference. So I don't even know if we know with certainty. I'm assuming Skinner's going tonight.
Skinner's going. Yep.
Yeah, Skinner's going tonight. And so for Stuart Skinner to get back to that consistent play that we've seen, but maybe making that one extra save, maybe on that backdoor pass, if they give it up, that he's not supposed to get, that usually he doesn't get, that usually no one gets, but somehow acrobatic or whatever, being able to make that one extra save, maybe on the penalty kill, could be enough to just turn the tide with some of the momentum. So I feel that that's really important today. I am not blaming goaltending for the losses. I'm not blaming goaltending for the way that they've been playing, because it hasn't been a goaltending out issue, like where the goalie has really been struggling and therefore everyone's not playing with confidence. It's right. The players out have been struggling, and then therefore the goaltending has not been playing with enough confidence. But it may be on the goaltenders, and Stuart Skinner today in particular, to turn that tide, Tommy, and to turn it around.
This is what I was going to ask you, and it does tie in with the goaltending a little bit, but mostly about point number 1, about the east-west turnovers, and then, having to be patient. And one thing that we gave the Oilers credit for on this show during that run was that they were playing a patient game, and they were getting that save from either Calvin Pickard or Stuart Skinner. With this Kings team coming in, having beaten the Oilers the way they did 16 days ago, 4-0 in LA, do you think that the Kings being the Kings, making you having to play a patient game, and then when they do get their chances, they go with dangerous players that you do need that big save from your goal. Do you think that the Oilers might be able to coax, or they rekindle the patience getting that save because it's the Kings, because the situation they're in, because they know how to do it and did it recently until the All-Star break?
Well, Tommy, I don't I don't know that a lack of patience has necessarily been the problem. It's almost been too much patience in some
Okay. Yeah.
regards, like where
I
they
get
haven't
it.
had that sense of urgency. And I mean, I don't know, and bear with me and feel free to disagree because this is totally, an opinion. Um, but coming out of the break, they have this great run and they're playing really well. They come out of the break, that first game, they play really well and they end up
Yep.
losing.
Yep.
And they've had a smattering. They've had some occasional good games, through the last 10 game stretch, like the game against Dallas, where they played pretty well for most of the game. But it kind of feels like, and that's why we've seen, I think, the lull in the second periods where they've been too patient, like where they're like, oh, it's going to come, it's going to come, it's going to come. But the thing that they were doing really well in maturity, and we talked about the patience, but they still had the urgency. Like it was an urgent patience. It was a patience that didn't say that said we're going to win, but we're going to push smart. And I think the patience that we've seen has almost gone from like an aggressive, urgent patience, which are kind of, it's weird to put those in the same sentence, but I think it's a real thing, to a passive patience. And so to me, it's almost like, I don't think the being too patient is a problem. It's having the urgency that brings out the best of the patience, if that makes
Right.
sense. Because it's like, okay, patient offensively, urgent defensively. Maybe that could, if I'm gonna, as I'm thinking out loud here, as I'm trying to communicate what's going on in my brain, which is always a million things at once.
Of course.
Is
All
like,
brilliant minds think like that.
right.
Cass? Yeah.
Is it's the ADD at work. Yeah. Is the urgency defensively they have not had. The patience offensively, and because of that, it's made them behind in games, which then leads to the trying to do things maybe they shouldn't do, and not necessarily playing without patience, but almost playing too lackadaisical at times, thinking that they're just going to automatically be back in the games or take over the games or whatever it is. So now to the second part of your question, because I think that's a great question. Do the LA Kings kind of bring out the best of them here? I mean, we'll have to see. I certainly hope so. There's certainly the chance that you look at the standings and you see that you are right at the same level as the LA Kings, and you are just a couple points behind the Vegas Golden Knights. And of the three, LA's been the one that has started to turn it around, and Vegas, probably because of injuries, Edmonton, because of their play, have been floundering a little bit recently. You are in the thick of this here. You are in the thick of this, not just not just to try to rise up in the division, but to try to secure some home ice, to try to not be in that wild card spot, to try to set yourself up for your best opportunity in the playoffs. I mean, the massiveness of this game being a 4-point game is huge. And I tell you, Tom, I'm not hitting the panic button. I know some people have, but if they come out with no urgency today, and if they can't find their best game tonight, I mean, we have to be concerned, or beyond concerned, Tommy. We have to be kind of on that scared spectrum, don't we?
I don't want to be, personally. I don't want to have to dip into that again already, because we've seen it this year, but it definitely gets closer to that, especially if they're out of it the way they were in LA on the 10th, where you're just like, I don't think they had no jam in that game. And then, having said that, when I say no jam, like, Cass, I don't know what your take on this is, but there was no jam at the morning skate, and it was not an optional. It was full pull. They half-heartedly skated for 25 minutes. They did some regroups. I don't know if it was specifically zone entries that they were trying to shore up, but there was no real, I don't think, neutral zone focus, unless that was it. And even if it was, like, they did this one drill for like 8 minutes, and they kept screwing it up, and Noblock didn't get mad. He's like, no, go again. No, you're not doing it right. Go again. And then even the passes weren't crisp. Guys were missing them. And you're just like, whoa, 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 what's going on? We joke about goaltenders having the worst pregame skate or morning skate of their lives, and then having a crazy game, or a team like the Oilers having a bad morning skate, but then having a great game. Where do you come out on this? What's your feel on morning skate to the game?
All depends on mentally what happens. Now, I would say that not being crisp and not feeling good and having to do things over and over and over again and not executing well in morning skate generally doesn't bode well, I would say. But it's not always the case. It's not always the case. And, it'll be really easy if they play poorly to draw a line back to that.
I know.
But, if they play really well, we're probably not even going to talk about it after the game, right? We're not going to think about it, and it's not going to even cross our minds to discuss. So it can really go either way. With that being said, I think if they play really poorly, that's probably something we're going to talk about. I guarantee you it comes up from either you or me or someone in the nasty chat or someone on the text line to talk about, because again, you don't want to necessarily draw a line to it, but you kind of can when they play poorly. At the same time, maybe to be fair to them, if they play really well today, we'll just have to say, you know what, they weren't crisp this morning, but whatever they did in the interim to get themselves set and prepped and ready, they were good. So we'll kind of have to see what they throw at us tonight.
Yeah, if they win and play well, it's like, well, they're not a morning skate team, that's for sure. But
you don't win games, Tommy. At the end of the day, you don't win games in the morning skate.
This is very true. You would expect, and the reason why we brought it up, we talked about, I know Rashog and I sitting there watching, and we're like, what the hell's going on out here? Like, this isn't normal. You would expect, after the type of game we saw against Calgary, that the type of week and a half it's been, 2 weeks since they've come from the All-Star break, at 4-5-1, pep in their step, right? Like tempo, crisp passes, lots of chatter, this. It wasn't that. And maybe that's why it was a bit alarming. And then even when they did screw up, they weren't sharper when they did the drill over. It was just kind of like, I'll chase it into the corner after this 3-on-2 regroup, and I guess I'll make a pass to the slot. If we get a shot, whatever, I'm going to the sidewall where 16 guys are watching, because it's just one 5-man unit after another taking up the whole ice. That's what it was. It was a bit surprising. That's all. We'll see what happens. But we need to get to number 3 on Game Changers with Matt Kassian, brought to you by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. Just a reminder, number 1 was East-West turnovers. Number 2 was get a save. Number 3, want it more.
Again, Tommy, no numbers, nothing fancy with this, but that's going to be this game. That's going to be this game. They didn't compete how they needed to compete against Calgary. They didn't compete at times, or for most of the game, in that game against Minnesota. They have to compete tonight. You have to compete tonight. You have to want it more. You have to work harder. You have to desire to win at a greater level than the Los Angeles Kings, who have started to pick up some momentum in the last 10 games and who are itching to get it in front of you in the standings and are itching to have this 4-point game in their back pocket versus yours. So it's an absolutely massive game, Tommy. It is just so critical that they work in those little things, that they outwork on the back check, that they move their feet to get back into the zone, that they win some of those little 50-50 battles that feel like they don't matter in the neutral zone, that they win a battle at the blue line with a bouncing puck, that they work to stay on the defensive side of the puck in instances where there could be a threat towards their own net. Like that, there's just things that they did not do, especially against Calgary. They have to do tonight. You have to do it tonight. If you don't, LA is going to absolutely crush you.
The Kings took it to the Oilers in that game on the 10th. They didn't score until the second period. They got a couple of quick ones in the second. 2:38 in and 3:27 in the second on February 10th. Dubois and Lewis, that kind of set the pace the rest of the way. Then they got one from Byfield, and then they got an empty netter from Byfield. Just a quick recap there. Okay, individually tonight, Cass, a lot has been said about Leon Draisaitl and in the penalty he took, and people bringing up his body language and they don't necessarily love it. That's nothing new. Do you anticipate Draisaitl having a monster game tonight?
I hope so. Yeah,
I'm with you.
I hope we see him. It's been a while since we've seen him take over a game 5-on-5. We've seen McDavid do it. It's been quite some time since we've probably watched Draisaitl and looked at the opportunities 5-on-5, looked at the chances generated, looked at the goals and points and everything, and said, "Whoa, Leon was really, really, really good tonight." I'm hoping we get that. I'm hoping we do, and I think just as much for him as for the team and for their chances of winning. Like he needs to have one. He needs to have one. Now he owns a penalty. He admits that it was a bad penalty, which you couldn't really admit anything else with it. And hopefully that puts a little bit of a spark in him tonight, Tommy. So again, it's a show me moment for Leon. It's a show me moment for the team. You can say what you want, you can have the words, but you got to actually go out and do it. So let's hope we see that from Leon Draisaitl tonight. Can he do it? Absolutely. We've seen him do it before. We just haven't seen him do it in a little while.
Matthias Janmark getting the bump up to the second line with Kane and Nugent Hopkins. Cass, was it the fight that put him over the top? And Noblock's like, we need that guy for a spark now.
I think two things. I think it's a little like Foegele, I don't think played poorly enough to get bumped down. But I think for Noblock, it's looking at a guy and saying, here's someone that battled and fought and worked. And if you work, you're going to get rewarded. So I think that's the lever that you're trying to pull with this, to say here's a guy that went out and he battled for the team, so we're going to give him a bit of an opportunity. So I think that's why you see Janmark getting the bump up. Who knows if it sticks? Probably depends on how they play.
Right. And there's been a lot of changing, moving pieces in the last couple of weeks. Jasmine texts in, Cass says, they were probably tired during the morning skate from shoveling. Well, not if you're McDavid. He's got the heated driveway. Piss Jug wants to know if I can ask Cass, if the Oilers lose the game, is it time to hit the panic button? You kind of touched on that earlier in Game Changers. PJ also adds, what does Holland do even more at the trade deadline? And I've seen some people ask if this stretch changes the priorities for the Oilers and Ken Holland and Jeff Jackson going into the deadline. What would you say to that?
Well, PJ, good to hear from you, number one. Number two, I don't think it's changed what they thought they needed. It may have just bumped up the urgency to make something happen. So I don't think it's changed. It's not like they're all of a sudden looking or trying to find something different. It's just like almost maybe solidified in their minds that they need to make some changes or add a piece or two, that this team is not complete. The team that went on the 16-game run, that was great, but you need a little bit more if you're wanting to make a push for the Stanley Cup. I think that's what it's solidified. And we talked about the panic button already. I mean, my hand would be hovering over top of it, not panicking necessarily. Maybe that's not the right word, but the code red, like emergency. We need to make a change and do something now. I mean, if they get absolutely walked on tonight and they don't show up at all, I mean, I can't see it being anything but a code red in that management box where Ken Holland is going to be forced to do something, and maybe forced to do it sooner than he originally liked or would like to have done it or anticipated.
Right. Well, he's got less than 2 weeks anyway, so maybe it speeds it up. Yeah, exactly. Cass, fantastic as always. I'll catch up with you on the post-game show.
Sounds good, Tommy.
That's our game analyst, Matt Kassian, with Game Changers, brought to you by Damon Bunting, Remax Elite. Keep those texts coming in. I've got a few queued up that I will get to in a little bit. And the Nasty Chat. Nasty Chat's moving along a little bit quicker than the traffic outside in the snow. But do your thing, Nasty Chat, as we continue on. We've got about 20 minutes left in the show. We do have to go inside the Oilers locker room a couple times, and we will hear from the Kings as well. You too, Trev, what do you say we go into the coach's room first and hear from Chris Noblock?
Yeah, let's definitely do that, Tommy. Here is the Oilers head coach, Chris Noblock.
Last game, you were talking about how good teams kind of nip stuff like this. How are you sensing your team kind of heading into this game against obviously a pretty pivotal rival here?
I think we're ready, focused. I think we're a mature group, and I think we're ready for a good game tonight.
Connor McDavid's going through a pretty odd stretch where he's obviously producing. He's got 21 assists in the last 9 games, but obviously the no goals too. Have you ever experienced something like this in a player? Do you recall something like this? And especially with your history with Connor, he just seems like a very odd and outlying kind of situation.
I can't put my finger on it, why the goals haven't gone. He's had some good shots. Maybe there's some missed opportunities to pass, but, with the amount of assists he's had, it's probably doing something well, too, to be put in that situation to get that many assists. So I think probably a lot of it being a little unfortunate, probably a little bit of just passing up opportunities to shoot. Maybe there's a couple, but I don't recall times of saying, what are you doing? Why didn't he shoot that? There's obviously other plays, so I don't know.
How much stock do you put into a morning skate? And I didn't think it looked great this morning. I normally wouldn't really comment on a morning skate, but it seemed a little bit sluggish. Did you notice the same? Any concern there?
No concern. Day off yesterday, taking a little bit longer to get our legs. No, I didn't see anything.
Looking for good starts from your groups, right? You haven't been happy with the last couple of first periods. Is there anything as a coach more that you can do, or is it just on those players in there to make sure they're each ready to go for their first few shifts?
Yeah, there's things that the coach can do and help facilitate that. I think we've been reaching out to the players and kind of give them reminders who they are and what we need from them. Touching on some system stuff, just little reminders, things that we maybe need to touch on. But I think this is just a stretch where we've been going into games where we've been looking just play well enough just to win. And it's kind of caught us a couple times. And you look at our last 10 games and, their analytics are one thing, and do I put all stocks in that? And ultimately it comes down, did you win or lose games? In the last 10 games, we're 4-5-1. But a couple, what the information I get back is, of those 10 games, we could be 10-0. On the projected win-loss, 10 of those games we should have won. In my perspective, I don't see it that way when I watch the games, but I think there's been just things haven't been going our way. There are things that we need to be doing better, but I don't think the 4-5-1 is really indicative of what we should have had.
Does the scenario when you get to this time of year work in a coach's favor? It's, we're pushing towards March 1st. The trade deadline's coming. You got a team coming in here tonight that's breathing right down your necks, caught up to you. Does the scenario around the standings, the time of year, does all of that help you to coach your team to be ready to play?
I think it's, as you get closer to the end of the season, obviously you have their attention more. It means more. And also who you're playing. Obviously the other night against Calgary was disappointment. You thought that would have got our best out. And I thought we were ready for that game, and we made a mistake, and we're down, and we didn't find it till it was too late. But I think we'll find it.
When you, Coach over here, when you look at the last two games, do you think it's more of a issue with maybe systems, or is it, maybe a lack of energy over the last two games? You do have a lot of games you're playing here over a short period. So do you think it's maybe a lack of energy, or is it more just a systems thing from what you've seen over the last two games?
I think a little bit of both. Little systems, details, not getting things done, maybe not having enough energy, the travel, the amount of games we've played, a little bit, but not much. Unfortunate bounces, the penalty kill, giving up goals, not like it was in January. They're all little things. The goal scoring rate. Not being able to. It's just numerous things. So it's if it's numerous things, it's things that we have to address and get better at those things, and things will look after themselves.
Did you notice it demonstratively anything different between the LA team you faced with Todd McLellan versus the LA team that you faced with Jim, or was it?
Before we had that game, after the break, we were expecting a lot of big changes. We thought they would have did some things with their defensive zone system, their neutral zone, and there wasn't much difference. There was a lot of similarities, and because we didn't do much of a pre-scout going into Los Angeles, because the things that we really thought identified them to their team we thought there was a very good chance it was going to change, and it didn't. Obviously, the talking points, and there's probably some details that are a little bit different, but from system-wise, it's a very similar team.
Chris, the last few games, it seems at times you're having extended defensive zone time for the opposition that didn't really happen during the run when you were playing great. You were able to kind of negate it and get the puck out. Are you allowing those more because, guys, you just get tired more because you're defending more? What are you seeing the oppositions having those a few more extended times where they seem to get you in trouble 5-on-5?
I think if you don't have the puck as much, I don't think our breakouts have been as clean. I don't think our execution has been as good. So what happens is you can't carry the puck through the neutral zone, spend time in the offensive zone, and we are pretty much on survival mode where we're just punting the ball, or flipping the puck in the neutral zone, and we're just giving up possession. It's a safe play, but it's not, we're giving up possession. And then what happens is we didn't get hurt on that play, but we have to come back and defend. Whether we get a line change or not, that's kind of been building in our game, and we're always kind of on the defensive side rather than being on the attack. The more you have that puck, easier to play.
Looks like Leon and Connor on a line tonight. From what you've seen so far, when's the right time to do that? Like when the team is needing what? Or what's the criteria that has you make that call?
I just think with just change of scenery, little flipping things a little bit. Just, the coaches, we talk about what would be best for our team, and, numerous reasons for that. And we just thought this was the best time that we'll start the game that way.
I'm not suggesting it's because of a fight. Janmark has been playing well lately, but is it just good messaging when a player is putting in the kind of work he is and, stepping outside of his comfort zone? Janmark's going to get a look here up the lineup and maybe some additional minutes.
Well, the other night, I thought the Kane, McLeod, Janmark line was really good. And we threw out the idea of keeping them together, and I think could have went either way, and we flipped those two centermen, McLeod and Nugent Hopkins, and I think we had good reasons to go either way. And we just thought with the way the lines work and their ice time management and after power plays and penalty kills, that'd probably be a little more flawless with the game flow that we went with that formula.
That was Chris Noblock following his team's morning skate, not reading too much into a sloppy morning skate, and giving some insight into why he switched things around. He's got McDavid with Draisaitl to start tonight. We've seen more of that lately, especially with the team struggling to pick up wins, 4 in their last 10. Vancouver and Vegas have done the same thing, by the way. All three teams 4-5-1. The Kings 7-2-1 in the last 10. Has them at 68 points, tied with the Oilers going into action tonight. And then you heard him giving the reward to Janmark. He mentioned that he had Janmark and Kane together with McLeod. He just put Nugent Hopkins between them instead, whereas McLeod will have Fogle and Perry between or on his flanks. And then you'll see Derek Ryan between Holloway and Brown, McDavid, Hyman, and Draisaitl being the top line. So a little bit of insight into that. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting, and they get they have their own analytics that the Oilers put together. The depth of numbers and stats and type of analytics that they have, and I've had these conversations with hockey ops people, is deeper than what we can get just publicly without paying thousands and thousands of dollars. And so it was interesting when he said that the underlying numbers suggested they could have won these 10 games since coming out of the break. And that was not his opinion from what he's seen from his team. We need to clarify that. But the numbers indicated that they had a chance or could have won all those games. Interesting. But I wholeheartedly, like Chris Noblock, disagree with those numbers. And we'll just go through this really quickly. The loss to Vegas 3-1. They were the better team. They were solid. Vegas got the extra save. Edmonton did not. It was essentially a 2-1 game with the empty netter. The win in Anaheim, it's Anaheim, but they got it. Good bounce back. But then they show up, play the Kings. They lose 4-0. I thought they were okay in the first period of that game. The rest of the way, they just couldn't get any jam going. They win 8-4 against Detroit. They almost blew that one, letting Detroit back into it a couple of times. They had no chance right out of the gate in St. Louis. No chance at all. Lose that one 6-3. Play a good game on a Saturday afternoon in Dallas. Win it in OT 4-3. Then they follow it up with a back-and-forth affair against the Arizona Coyotes at Mullet Arena on a holiday Monday in the afternoon. They have an interesting and fun game against the Boston Bruins where they had to claw their way back, and they lose it 6-5, getting the loser point. Didn't really have much jam in that game against Minnesota. Didn't really have much jam in that game against Calgary. You know, they had that one moment where they cut the lead to 1 goal, and then Draisaitl takes a penalty. It's just like they chased it all night long, and they chased it all night long against Minnesota as well. So, I mean, if the numbers are suggesting that they could have won all 10 of those games, I don't buy that for a second, like Chris Noblock. And I just went through every single one of those games. And quite frankly, you could almost make the argument that they're lucky to have 4 wins in these last 10. Simple as that. We'll see if they get a spark tonight against the Kings team that could pass them if they lose. Looking to stop that is Connor McDavid. Also looking to stop his goalless streak at 9 games is Connor McDavid. Here's the captain right now.
Just in terms of level of readiness and, how you think you're ready heading into this game tonight.
Yeah, well, I mean, no better way to get out of a little bit of a funk than playing against these guys. Obviously, we know them well. They're a great team. They're playing really well since the break. So we're looking forward to it. Always look forward to playing these guys.
You're putting up lots of points. Is it concerning at all? It's that you haven't scored in 9 games, or does it?
I've decided I'm just going to see how many assists I can get. So that's the focus. I'm not going to shoot the puck anymore, and I'm not going to score any more goals. So no, I mean to be obviously, of course, I want to score, want to produce. I want to help this team any way I can, and scoring goals is part of that.
It seems like a really bizarre run, though, right? I mean, because you are putting up the points, you're setting up other people. Have you ever been through something kind of like this before in your career?
Yeah, for sure. I've gone through stretches where I haven't scored and still been productive. It's yeah.
What do you think? The shots seem to be the same. You're firing as many shots at the net. Maybe a few more are getting blocked. I'm not sure. What do you think? What's the difference between 64 goals last year and the pace you're on this year?
Yeah, it's a good question. Passing away some opportunities, I guess, every now and then. I think back to some 2-on-1s passing away, good looks in the slot passing away, so maybe there's a little bit of that. Scoring goals is a little bit lucky, too. I mean, sometimes it's going in, sometimes it's not. Guys have them going off their face and shoulder and whatever, and for whatever reason, sometimes they don't go in. So it's just one of those things, and yeah.
You're playing with guys that can finish, so like Zach's got a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Ryan's got a lot of goals. Like, I guess does that help out that when you send those guys up there?
I've always played with guys that can finish. Guys that can score goals, and I like getting assists too. I like contributing that way. I like setting teammates up. I like making those plays, and I still feel like I'm creating lots and getting looks. For some reason, it's not going in for me.
In terms of, the team scoring, it's more the other end of the ice and kind of cutting down the goals against and that sort of thing. How much of a focus have you put on it? And have you dialed in on a few areas you think will help fix it?
Yeah, I think during our run there, a good stretch of only giving up 2 goals or less. So. It's no secret, obviously, for our group what it takes to be successful. We know we can score goals. We've got to keep them out. I think the PK helps a lot, and obviously the PK has been struggling a little bit. 5-on-5, we've been giving up a few more chances. With that being said, I think
team against them, not kind of force the issue. But when you're struggling, is that easier said than done?
No, it's a great test for us to just kind of stick with it, not get frustrated by anything. Like you said, we know this team well. We know what it takes to beat them. And like you said, it's a patient game, understanding that they don't give up much. They want you to kind of beat yourself in terms of turning the puck over and stuff like that with their trap in the middle. So not being frustrated, sticking with it, knowing that it's going to be a long game, and and just being okay with that. We're comfortable in these games.
This would be, sorry, Derek, this, just listening to you talk, this isn't the night to say, I got to go out and score a bunch of goals. The priority here seems to be fixing the back end and figuring out the front end later.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, we've never gone into a game being like, let's run this up here. Let's go score a bunch of goals and give up a bunch on the back end. We never want to give up goals. We're always trying to limit chances, and sometimes it goes better some nights than others. I think that's normal across the league, and right now we're on a stretch where we've given up a few in a row, and we definitely want to tighten it up.
You went from 100 in the scoring race to third. Is the scoring race still kind of a target there, or is that something that you've been there, done that type thing?
I want to help this team win. I want to help this team any way I can. Obviously, for me, that's producing too. That's part of it. But just being a full 200-foot player, that's all I kind of focus on. And like I said, helping this team win is all that matters. And I think everyone's bought in on that way. And that's an afterthought.
I just wonder what, there's been a lot of different line combinations of guys moving around during this run, at least compared to the winning streak naturally.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that? Because the offense has been there, but it's been a little hard to find chemistry at different times.
Well, I think when you're maybe not as happy with your game as you'd like as a group, you're going to see some juggling. I think that's normal. When you're on a good stretch, lines, you're obviously playing well, lines stay the same, and I think that's part of the, just naturally there's going to be lots of movement when we're, like I said, not overly thrilled with how our game has been. That being said, I think guys are comfortable playing with each other. I mean, we've juggling lines is nothing new for our group. We've played with lots of different line combinations, and so I think that hasn't been an issue, no.
All right, there's Connor McDavid joking around. No, he doesn't want to score any more goals. I thought that was pretty funny, giving our buddy DVD a good soundbite there. Obviously being facetious. One thing we did notice with McDavid is he has one shot per game less than he did last year. Last year, he was at about 4.29. We were calculating this really quickly, Rashog and I, this morning at the morning skate, because it was such a boring morning skate. I'm kidding. This year, he's at around a 3.3% or shooting or shots per game. So he's got 177 shots through 53 games played this year. Last year, where he scored 64, he had 352 shots total. That was far and away his biggest shot total in his career. The year prior to that, where he scored 44, second most goals over the course of his career in a season. He had 314 shots. The year prior, in the 56-game season, 33 goals on 200 shots. He should slide into the 30s this year, especially if he picks up his shot totals. But one shot per game less this year for Connor McDavid thus far. And joking there that he doesn't plan on scoring another goal all season. The total is up to 9 games right now. All right, we're going to go into the Kings locker room really quickly, and then we'll wrap and get to a couple of texts as we roll along. Let's go to Jim Hiller, head coach of the LA Kings.
I mean, it's 3 straight games here against teams within the division. How much do you think like the intensity is going to ramp up over the course of this trip?
Well, I won't look too far ahead. I'll look tonight. There'll be plenty of intensity in this game tonight, so that'll be the one that we'll focus on. We got them the last game. I thought we played pretty well. They're a strong offensive team. They're going to be coming tonight. We know that.
Do you I'm going to try and word this. Now you're starting to feel more and more like the head coach of the LA Kings, especially when you make that transition. Is it easy to sort of separate from what you were doing to what you're now doing, or is it a real big crossover?
No, I don't think too much. I'll be honest. It hadn't been a big transition for me. I haven't felt that way at all. I spent a lot of time, running a team back in the Western League, as you know. So that hasn't felt that much. It's just, the grind of it, speaking to you guys every day and twice a day sometimes, that probably has been the biggest challenge for me.
How far has Byfield come this year from previous years?
I just got my eyes on Q last year because I just showed up at the beginning of last year. I thought he made great strides last year. I think he's making great strides this year. So I wouldn't talk about it in terms of this year, what he's done, for me, it's been the 2 years, and it's probably been about just a natural progression for the 2 years that I've been here so far.
A big guy learning how to play the game. In junior, he had the puck all the time, probably because he was so big.
That could be, but the one thing that impresses me about Q more than anything is his work ethic. I mean, you can see his physical ability, but for a high draft pick to come into the league and have that type of work ethic right away has been really impressive. And when you have that work ethic, you're going to get better. Your game's going to grow in some of the other areas, and I think that's what we're seeing.
You guys added Jacob Moverara to the group. What's been your report on what he's brought either with Ontario or with you guys earlier in the year?
Well, he played really well with us earlier in the year, so I'm familiar with him. He's played while I've been here, and then he was sent down and played very, very well. I guess his last few weeks he's just really been strong two-way defenseman for them. So tough to jump into Edmonton as your first game, but he's got enough experience that we'll trust him. He'll get some good minutes tonight.
What do you need to see from him specifically tonight, having him on that left side with Roy?
Well, he's just a steady type of player. Really, he plays a lot like Mikey Anderson, who's not going to be here. So he just has to be himself. He doesn't have to, and for any young defenseman coming in, you can't try to make a big impact right away. You just got to play your game, play it clean. When there's an opportunity, you make a play. Otherwise, if you're not in anything going the other way, then the coach is usually pretty happy with your game.
All right, there's head coach Jim Hiller of the LA Kings, 6-2 since he took over for Todd McLellan. Really quickly, Kings lines tonight: Kopitar between Laferriere and Kempe, Deneau with Moore and Fiala, Dubois between Anderson, Dolan, and Byfield, Lizotte with Lewis and Kaliev on his flanks, Gavrikov with Doughty, Moverare with Roy, I should say, Englund with Spence, and David Riddick gets the start for the Oilers. If you didn't catch it, McDavid between Draisaitl and Hyman, Nugent Hopkins with Kane and Janmark, McLeod with Fogle and Perry, Ryan between Holloway and Brown. Defense, same as it has been all year, except for that 1 or 2 weeks where they tried to switch it up. It didn't really work out. No Gagner and Stuart Skinner is your starter. Let's wrap up with a couple of texts. This one from Maple Jed says, "Hey, TG, what does Holloway need to do to get some chances as players like Janmark, Brown, etc.? Fourth line seems like the last place I would be playing him." Sorry if you already covered this, Maple Jed. Maple Jed, I like what he's doing, and I like his attitude. I think if he keeps going, keeps hustling, it'll start to click for him when he finds the nuances and discovers the nuances of the game and how he can mold himself to it. I'd say to him, keep doing what you're doing, because eventually the dam's going to break and the offense is going to come. I'm encouraged by Dylan Holloway, and when he starts to put it together consistently, I think that's when we get to see him moved up for longer stretches of time, as opposed to one game with McDavid, then back on the fourth line, one game with Draisaitl, back on the third line. Consistency, and I feel like he's working towards getting there. I like the hustle he's showing, and a bit of offense is coming with it. Displaced Yukoner says, "If the Oilers can't get up for this game, it might be time to start worrying." Displaced Yukoner, that's a fair statement. We'll see what happens tonight. And then finally, Fish Tank says, "Hey, Tommy, listening on iHeartRadio and sounding crystal clear. Need an oil win. Let's go, Fish Tank." Thank you for the text, Fish Tank. Yes, we are on iHeartRadio now. Check us out there. Just look up Edmonton Sports Talk. We're on TuneIn, of course. The numbers there have been great. So many more platforms for you to digest and take in Edmonton Sports Talk, as well as YouTube and on our audio stream. And we've been seeing the numbers go up, and up, and we want to keep that going. We've got a great thing going here, and we thank everybody for tuning in tonight and any show that they tune into on our fine station. We appreciate you. That's going to do it for the Oil Stream pregame show. Big thank you to Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period for hopping on, giving us the Kings side of things. Huge thank you to everyone who watched and listened. As always, drive safe if you're on your way to the game. And for YouTube, Trev and Matt Kassian, I'm Tom Gazzola saying enjoy the game. See you later.